All right. Hey, everybody. How we doing? What's going on, Stella?
Not a lot.
How's your weather out there today since we're talking about weather?
Well, since I'm in
Oh,
Florida,
you're in Florida.
it is chilly though. It is chilly. There's a little bit of sun. It's supposed to get hot by the end of the week though. So
Well, we've got ice storms up here, and we couldn't get out of our driveway this morning, and had to try to take my wife to work since she's works at a hospital, and critical staffing requires leadership to show up. So
sure.
I had to try to get her there, and then they finally called her while we were halfway out the driveway and sliding all over the place. And they said, "No, no, you don't have to come in today. Just wait till noon because it's supposed to. It already got warm enough to turn to rain. So
Yeah.
freezing rain. So
Yeah.
anyway,
So
so introduce yourself. Say hello. Tell us
oh,
a little bit about you and how you got started with volume.
okay. Well, probably a lot of people probably have seen me speak before, but so I'll just keep it brief. But I've been in the volume photography business for 20 years. I purchased my business and then I'm basically, I say self-taught, but really not self-taught. I just took advantage of a lot of photographers in the industry, which shared how they, um, first of all, take photos, how to use a camera, because that's how bad I was. I didn't know what I was doing. I just bought the business. I needed to learn. So I learned most of, photography and how to shoot volume through going to conferences and just from generous photographers that were willing to share, how they do things.
Absolutely.
Um, but yeah, and I do sports, I do schools, and I do dance schools. Just pretty much everything volume. I really don't dabble in any family portraits or senior portraits and that kind of thing. Occasionally I do them upon request during my slow periods, maybe in the summer or around Christmas, but that's about it.
How'd you come up with the name Mini Sports Pros? Just curious.
Actually, that was the previous owner's
Okay.
name, and I've never changed it. And then when I started doing schools, it just didn't schools. Actually, I got asked to do a Marine Corps ball formal, and it was checks back then. And I'm like, I can't have them write a check to Mini Pro Sports Photos. So you can trade in the state of Maryland up to in 7 different doing business names. So
DBAs.
I
Yep.
on-site photography, so that's why I trade under 2 different names. So, but
Cool.
and I did that basically because I don't have a studio. I'm an on-location photography company, so we travel to wherever we have to go, indoors or outdoors. So, yeah.
Perfect. Well, as we talk today, I'd like everybody to just drop their questions in the comments. We will get to those as we can. We say we've already got some stuff going on here, going from 84 in Orlando to 40s in Louisville. Yep, going to imaging. So, which shows are you going to be at this time?
I'm going to imaging and I'm going to sync. So
Okay.
I'm not going to be at SPAC. So, which is the first time, like I think in 8 years or something. So I'm going to
Right.
meet all my friends there, but a lot of them will be at imaging and sync. So I'll see them there.
Yeah, I will also be imaging and sync, so I will not be at SPAC, but there's a whole other crew going. So
That's right.
anyway, so share a memorable picture today that stands out, that involved some extreme weather. Kind of what was it like? How did you handle it? Let's go from there.
Well, it's crazy because it's like the worst weather I think I've had in the 20 years was just like last year.
Hmm.
Um, you know, Weather wise, because I'm mainly outdoors and don't have an inside situation, usually 24 hours out, I I have an agreement with my league commissioner that we're going to cancel photos because I need to have enough
Yeah.
time to communicate with parents and coaches, letting them know that, hey, it's not going to happen tomorrow morning, because I'm just not willing to risk it. And I do travel sometimes, a little over an hour hour to hour and a half sometimes. And it's just too risky with setting everything up. I mean, I've been there before. Um, and it seems like I've always been able to troubleshoot it in advance, but this past year, last April, the wind is extreme weather as well. I know a lot of
Yeah.
people talk about, shooting in the snow, but the wind can be really severely challenging. So we were setting up our tents for a baseball shoot, and I was doing last the lights underneath the tents. And we had 3 tents. We had the 3 tents set up, and it was really breezy. And I put sandbags on everything. I use bungee cords. I hang sandbags from each corner of the tent. I also wrap the sandbags on each foot of the tent. Um, and even though we had all that in place, the wind literally blew our tents to the sideways and bent the legs on two of the tents. And my tents are not cheesy; they are commercial, easy up tents. They're heavy, and they still bent those legs. And I also used Uramax and bent
Right.
on that. So because my weights were so strong, they were doing what they're supposed to do. But when it got pushed over, it just so so luckily I had canceled the indoor spot 3 hours earlier, saying, we're just going to go outside. And it was 4 o'clock, and our first teams were showing up at 5. And at 4:10, I'm like, this is not going to happen. We threw all of it. We broke everything down really quickly, threw the tents, basically not even hardly folded down. The legs were still fully extended. Threw all my tents in the trailer, and we headed to the American Legion. And we got everything set up, and we were ready to go at 5 o'clock. I never saw it. I mean, the American Legion was about 10 minutes down the road. So I think we got all the stations set up like in 20 minutes. So we had 3 photo stations. And it was a big baseball league. We were doing like about 400 kids. So
Right.
so it was a little nerve wracking, but my staff is pretty familiar with how we set up. So everybody kind of knew what they were doing, and I just put them on teams to set up the stations. And so we did that. And then there was another time, of course, rain. Um, you tell your coordinator how much time you need to set up, and you have an indoor location. It was pouring down rain. Thank goodness we had an indoor location. But we get there, and we were supposed to get in at 8 to be ready to go at 9. And they wouldn't let us in. So they said, no, we're not going to let you until 8:30. I'm like, and that was 4 stations, 1,200 baseball players coming, and we had 30 minutes, and it was torrential downpour. So I'm just in my car texting everybody, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this. So as soon as we were able to get in, everybody ran to my trailer, grabbed what they needed, and we got set up again in like less than 30 minutes. So you have all different kinds. But anyway, and then of course the rain, sometimes you're set up and then you're at the end of the shoot, the rain comes in. So you're going all day. So you have a 6-hour shoot, and you're seeing the dark clouds come in, and you just want to finish. I don't want to come back. So you do what you need to do to get through the shoot. And so I do carry some extra little pieces of equipment like umbrellas, just
Right.
put over whether it's my lights or just to hold over a photographer. I mean, sometimes the parents will actually hold the umbrella over my photographers for me, just to finish the shoot, because they don't want to come back either. Photo days aren't really fun for parents either. So if you can at least get them through their photo day as well as they're willing to help you out to get through it. So
Absolutely. You don't want to reschedule if you don't have to. So,
yeah,
obviously, the American Legion, not everybody has access to that, but that brings up a good point. You probably should always have a backup plan for that weather if you're not going to be able to reschedule. Like it happens during the shoot, like all of a sudden it's fine, and then big gusts of wind show up, and now your tents are all over.
that's right.
Having that extra place to go or whatever is a great plan to have in place before you even set up. So.
Yeah.
So, did anything change after your first experience with weather? Was that windstorm really kind of your big one that helped you plan?
Yeah, it was. And actually, because April tends to be windy, right?
Right,
March, April can be really windy. So, I have sought out indoor locations. I mean, of course, these leagues, they don't have a lot of money. I'm just budgeting in rentals. So I am finding, whether it's a school facility or a athletic gym or some of those training facilities, athletic training
mhm,
facilities. I mean, I set up in the weight room, especially with the last light. I mean, even if you're doing, a backdrop and lighting, there's plenty of room in a weight room. Um, at some of these facilities for you to rent and have that as a backup, and just, build find, they're willing, it's rental, it's just sitting there, they're not using
Right.
it. So you just, like I booked a new facility that I've never been in for April shoot that I have, which is another big baseball league. I didn't even realize that there was this large shed until I had to go back to do makeup photos, because we did have to break down because the rain started coming, and we're like, we're out of here before we could see it on the radar. So I had to go back. When I went back, I noticed this big like barn shed thing, and it said something about rentals. I'm like, I've never seen this before. I've been photographing this league for like
That's
10
cool.
years. So yeah, so I called them. So it's going to be $640 for me to rent, but it's 3 stations and it's like 500 baseball players. And I'm just like, you know what? If you've got it, just build it into your pricing structure, rent it, make your life a lot easier, because it's so much easier to photograph indoors, especially if you're not shooting traditional. I mean, I do both, so sometimes I have leagues, they don't want that. So I'm going to have to do traditional. But if you have a league that is really flexible, it's have that backup so that, and you should be able to photograph both ways. So people who've never have only photographed traditionally should, master green screen, or I use the last delay. And even if you have to outsource it, just because that way you don't need to cancel. So you find a facility, and now as long as the league knows, okay, if we have to go indoors, we're not going to do traditional. It's going to be in, and then they're fine with it, so you can make it all work into your favor, because nobody wants to reschedule a picture day.
Yeah, it's you got to have that extra plan in place. And other locations that I've found, and I'll just share them for everybody that's listening, is YMCA's have rental rooms. Sometimes your Parks and Rec department has indoor facilities where they have rental rooms where you can rent out an area for 150 bucks. I'll tell you, that beats having to reschedule.
Yep.
That's money well spent. So,
Yep.
um, Foreign Legion, American Legion, VFW,
News clubs.
yeah, any of those. I
Yeah.
mean, just have that conversation and go out and have that stuff set up in your back pocket so that in the event of pop up weather, you have a plan to get out of there. So. High schools and stuff, those kind of sports, they've always got, practice
Yeah.
gyms or large common areas where you can set up a last light or a green screen or whatever you're shooting. But yeah, have a plan.
Yeah.
Um, you have equipment special for those weather days
Um,
other than umbrellas?
um, Not really, just having extra tents. I've doubled up my tents before, to try to get through a shoot. And,
Mhm.
you had mentioned about getting the gutters in between the tents,
Yeah,
because I know that I shared with you a picture, but sometimes the rain. I shoot with flash. I'm not using ambient lighting. But if the rain's coming down, your flash goes off. Well, those raindrops get lit up in front of your subject. So
sure.
you really, even though you're trying to get through a shoot, you need to make sure that that's not happening, because that's a very difficult thing to edit. There's like all
Yeah.
these coming down. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
raindrops in front of a flash, yeah, you're editing little white spots out of all of your images, but
Yeah, and on these photos that you're showing on the screen right now,
mhm,
so to help with wind, and I can't remember, I did borrow this from another photographer, and I don't remember who had done this, but so I know I share. Some people see me on Facebook Live, and I do put up pennants using the step-in stakes
right,
and drape the pennants for line, organization, for crowd control. So that the first picture on the left, real and on the right, shows the step-in stake with a bungee cord, just pushing it into the ground and bungeeing the light stand, so to just try to keep it to be stable so it won't blow over. So it's just a little thing. I mean, in the extreme wind that I had last April, I don't know how well that would have fared, because we never got to that point to set up the lights.
right.
So, and I do use beauty dishes for my individuals. So yeah, so in high winds, they can catch some wind. So anyway, so sometimes if it's kind of breezy, I will definitely use those stepping stakes and bungee those in. And just to kind of secure them in the ground to prevent them from falling over or blowing over.
Yeah, lower profile modifiers are absolutely indispensable when it comes to high wind. The long throw 45s, there's some are called, I think, Magnum 45s, but they're just a large, deep reflector
Mhm.
that just goes right on the end of your Bowens mount for your lights. They're good long throw. You can set them a good distance away, but the deal is that they are low profile. The wind is typically not going to be able to really knock those over. If you've got sandbags or weights already on your light stands, really, it's not going to be too bad.
Right.
I know Jay and his crew, they have hundreds of pounds of sandbags, but they're also
Yeah.
doing, 4, 5, 6 four. I think they do 4 setups, but they've got a ton of weights because they're usually using between 3 and 5 lights. Everything's got to get weighted down. They've got
Yep.
those scrims, that kind of stuff to
Yeah.
manage stuff. And so, yeah, there's a lot of weight that has to happen. So this is a really great alternative for carrying around a ton of sandbags. So
Yeah. Yeah.
have you ever tried the water bags? Where sometimes I used to shoot at a park for YMCA here, and that park had just a pipe stand for water, and so you could pull
Yeah.
that on, and I could fill up 4 or 5 water bags in like 5 minutes, and I didn't have to carry it around, empty it out. Only problem is when they pop a hole,
Sure.
your
No,
truck
I know
gets
what you're
wet.
talking about. I had one of those flag banners that had one of those rubber water fillable
Hmm.
bladders or whatever they call them. But
Right.
no, I never have access to that much water.
Yeah.
So we're out in the middle of the field somewhere most of the time. So I'm not even in the middle of I'm like along a tree line somewhere. So not usually close to the clubhouse or anything like that. So.
Sure. Well, we got a few more images. You can go through these with
Mm.
me, and so here's your sandbags.
Yep. Yep. So typically there's a loop like on the sandbag on the right. That's an easy up sandbag. So there's a loop on it. So I will just use my bungee cords and just hang those from each corner of the tent. And I fill them. I know it says sand, but those close with a zipper. And if they're
Hmm.
not closed all the way, sand will leak everywhere. So I've actually gone to like pea gravel. So
Hmm.
I actually fill my sandbags with pea gravel now. And I'm not showing it here, but I know a lot of people have the, not everybody, but I use the GPS risers and they have the indoor stanchion, those metal bases.
Yep.
Those bags, they come in a pack of 4. I'll
Hmm.
hang those on my really windy days. I'll hang those from the bungee cord. They're really heavy,
Hmm.
and at least they're really compact. So when I've gotten really threatening wind, I'll use those as well. But yeah, so I'll put just like you see in the one picture. I'll wrap the one sandbag on the bottom of the leg, and then I will actually hang another sandbag from that leg, so it's on all 4 corners. So
Yeah.
it's the best I can do with being out in the wind.
Well, I know we talked about this, but share with everybody why you pick Euramax or the Easy Up canopy system over, say, Walmart brand.
Well, the legs that we talked about earlier that were all bent, I got brand new ones shipped to me from both Easy Up and Urmax just to replace. They're very easy to replace.
Yeah.
So, and if you buy an inexpensive, well, first of all, an inexpensive tent is really, I can't even imagine. Um, they would probably definitely have flown away that day. But they're just heavier in weight, and then they stand by their product. My tents, I mean, my Easy Ups are 20 years old.
Right.
I mean, I just keep replacing parts on them when I need replacement parts, and there's no reason to replace that whole. I mean, they're expensive, but they're worth it. They're going to last. So that's why I both those brands I really like, and they also come with roller bags. Easy Up just came out with the roller bags. I don't know. I just discovered them. I bought 4 of them because the Urmax always came with them. So
Right.
that's a bonus for those too. So
Yeah, it's the same adage my grandfather always had was, you can buy garbage twice or the best once. And in this case, I think it's absolutely worth it because you can replace pieces and parts. They stand behind their product and it'll last. So
yep,
the number of you said that 20 years, you have well gotten your three or
yeah,
$400 out of your
yeah. Well, they
out of
were
your
less
frame.
expensive 20 years ago too. So.
Yeah.
But I don't have to replace them. And actually I've never really had to replace that many parts. Just like a missing screw or those thumb screws and stuff that might fall
Right.
out from the canvas canopy or whatever. And then these pictures here, sometimes if there's threatening weather, I have these Manfrotto clamps that I'll clamp on the inside of the
Right.
tent, like for hair lights, or even main lights, depending on where I set up the backdrop and what kind of backdrop I'm using. So just keeping everything, if you can keep everything underneath the tent, that's also, if you're, it helps you get through maybe a little drizzle that
Right.
might pop up. So, because I hate to cancel if they're calling for just like a light rain for an hour.
Absolutely.
Am
There's
I
no reason to
really
call for
gonna
that.
cancel? It's like if I can just get through, you know, that hour, I'll be good.
Yeah, those little Manfrotto clamps, everybody should have at least 2 or 3 of those in their bag, as well as, I like to have at least 2 super clamps around so you
Yeah.
can clamp stuff to a fence or whatever. So, it even
Yes.
helps to secure things, like you can back your tent up to a fence line,
Yes.
secure it with some ropes and, these clamps, and then you can easily remove them. But
Yeah.
so what do we got going on here? So, large umbrellas. Okay, so you're covering your strobes out
Yeah.
here.
So
So
this is just an example of, we started getting, you can see the skies, not
mhm,
real dark, but it started lightly raining, but it wasn't calling for torrential. So again, wanted to get through it. I try to, when I can, shoot with two lights outdoors, main light, and then if it's
mhm,
sunny, sometimes the sun will add as a little bit of a rim light or
right.
a light. But I'll have two lights. So like the photo on the left with the blue and white, navy and white golf umbrella. I do have an alien bee underneath there just with the umbrella to try to get through. Um, so just so that the little drizzle doesn't land on
Mhm.
the light and ruin that, which I'm sure it will, but I've got plenty
I
of
see
those.
you're using your coolers down here to hold that one down.
Um,
Any port in storm.
exactly, exactly. So whatever you can use to, and you can see that one tent got beat up a little bit in the wind too. So some of
Mhm.
those are a little bent up, but yeah, just to get through, um, whatever I can do. And sometimes we're holding the umbrellas, or if we can, attach them to, a light stand that I'm not using, and then bungee it to that light stand to cover the camera or whatever.
Sure.
So just get creative with trying to get through the shoot. And then, yeah,
This is covering your staff as well as the kids,
yeah.
right?
So here we have two photographer stations underneath the tent, and then I just put one tent over top of my two photographers so that they could be undercover. And this is where we say, where you butt the tents up, you probably should have a gutter there, because water will build up and pour down the middle, down the sides eventually if
Right.
it rains long enough. But that's just another solution for getting through the rain situation.
Yeah, I saw those gutters. I don't remember if they were name brand or if they were associated with a brand, but I think they were aftermarket. And basically, they attach with some Velcro to the underside of each tent canopy between
Mhm.
two tents that you've set up, because inevitably the water's going to drain down between them. And that's just going to be a river of water coming through there, especially if you're shooting across it. But if you can direct that rain either in front or behind, you'll save yourself a whole lot of problems. I just thought it was ingenious that
Yeah.
way. But what do we
Well,
have next here?
that's my bent tent leg.
That's the one you replaced.
Yes.
That looks like an
So,
easy up.
well, I took a picture of it because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get a replacement leg, and I just had two shoots that day, and I needed tents, so I just had to use them. They were still functional. It's just that they were bent. So I actually took that picture to send to Easy Up, and I'll just say, hey, can you replace this? This is the model I have. This is what it looks like, that kind of thing. But that is, I mean, you can't really tell there. I guess you can tell. It's like kind of curved in. I mean, it's not severely bent, but it's bent enough where it's not right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so it's nice to do that. So I know that most people have experienced a little bit of rain with the last delight. I know Kim has had this experience standing in water. So I do put down a tarp. I think it's a 8x8 dark brown tarp that I just use tent stakes that I put on the ground, and then I put the trained the lacylate on top, and then you can kind of see the black gaffer's tape. We just
Yeah.
tape it down in place. But that's just an example of, trying to get through the shoot, and it's nice at least to, try to protect, what you have. Like, I don't like my lacylate to sit. I don't even like it to sit on the grass when it's not raining. So I try to have my lacylate set up on the tarp, and then the trains also on the tarp when I set
Yeah.
up outdoors, just to I mean, it is expensive. So,
Right.
I don't need mud on it if need, and that kind of thing. So I try to preserve that. So,
Oh yeah, this is rain on the lens.
yeah, so this might be kind of hard for people to see a little bit, but on the left, yeah, right there, you can see it on his arms. This is what I was talking about, where I believe this was mist on the lens. So it could have been the water drops or it could have been mist. But the mom actually emailed me and accused me of wanting making her pay for retouching because her son's skin was all splotchy, and she didn't want to pay for retouching for something that didn't exist on her son's skin. And I'm like, what is she talking about? So I pull up the image because she bought a digital image, so she's got a high res digital image and she sees all these splotches.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at it, I'm like, oh my, I know what the shoot was. We were in the rain, and sure enough, that's what it was. And all I had to do is run him through just a skin. I use portraiture, just
Okay.
the light defaults portraiture, and they all went away. And I just resent her that the image. But so that's just another thing when you're outdoors, you think you're getting through it, but you need to make sure your lenses aren't getting some sort of mist or spray on them. And a lot of times you've got a lot of kids, you're still trying to get through it. You just have to realize you're in the rain. You better check those lenses and make sure you've got, a lens cleaner, lens wiper, whatever, so that you can get rid of those spots because they will be, they'll be in your
Right.
image.
Right. Let's
So,
go to the next or last one. Hey, it's your trailer.
so I
That's
just
well organized right there.
I think I just included the trailer because it really is when you're in a situation like when I had to break down my tents in a hurry. I mean, I should have taken a picture of what my trailer looked like after we threw everything in there because everything was just thrown in there. I mean, the tents were all laying on the floor, stacked on top of each other. I mean, we just threw them all in there. And I drive a Sequoia, so when we broke down quickly, I told everybody to put all the photo equipment in my Sequoia, but throw all the tents in the trailer and try to keep it somewhat organized because I knew we were going to have to find the light stands to reset them up when we got to the American Legion and stuff. But I just wanted to share. So I have like my stepping stakes. I keep my umbrellas in there. There's, my toolboxes in there for whenever I might need it on my light stands. I love my trailer, and it has really helped out with
Yeah.
oh, I even have big clear plastic bags sometimes that I'll put over my camera um, that are in there. So it's just, and I know not everybody drives a big truck, and I know some people photograph inside their big trailers, which I don't do,
Yeah,
but
we're not all John. We're not
it's
we're not all John Riviera.
right. But it's just nice to have that in an emergency situation where you can kind of throw everything in there. And even if it's like you want to just move things out of the way, really quickly, and then try to salvage your shoot in 30 minutes or something, it's nice to just kind of have like an indoor space that you travel with if need be. So
Right. Let's see what you got. One more here, I think. That might have been it.
I
Nope,
think
that is it for those.
is it.
Um, so obviously we've gone through your equipment for weather days versus non-weather days. Do you have any other recommendations for people who may face extreme weather for the first time? They're just getting into this. I mean, today is an extreme weather day for a lot of us in the Midwest. It is freezing rain.
Yeah.
Um, there is no way to really get people to and from a shoot um, like this, even indoors. So, any other suggestions for other extreme circumstances and how to manage those?
Well, the other thing is temperature. I mean, you need to make sure you always have extra fully charged batteries, because sometimes, you will experience, sometimes there's a weather or a temperature drop, and your batteries will really deplete
Yep.
quickly in cold situations. I mean, the coldest I think I've ever photographed in is 34 degrees. I mean, there was no snow on the ground, but it was cold and it was windy, and we did go through some. I don't know. I think it was around 300 kids or something. It was two photographers, so we were out there for a few hours, but we did go through some batteries. So that's something to just think about and be aware of. I think most people, if you're smart, always have come prepared with extra cameras, extra batteries, extra everything in case something doesn't work. But
Right.
times you don't think, you think you've got enough batteries to get through a shoot, and whatever cold weather conditions pop up on you. It's
Yeah.
some
Any of our hockey shooters out there have anything to contribute there?
yeah, exactly. So those types of things, and just just your because with wind, having extra staff if you think you may need it, like if the forecast is going to be kind of challenging for weather, bring somebody else on, because it can't hurt to have that person be in charge of the umbrellas or holding an umbrella for one photographer to get through a shoot. So sometimes it's nice to have extra staff if you know that the weather might be challenging, if you have extra staff, because I know a lot of us, that's a tough thing to get. So it's just something to think about. It's like, oh, weather doesn't look good. Because if it's an easy, beautiful day, it's going to, you don't really have to worry about holding the tent. Because even those windy days with the sandbags, I'm always like, everybody put a hand on the tent if you're not doing anything, because it still makes me nervous.
Right.
So,
If you got parents standing around, have them all grab a tent leg and
yeah.
add some ballast. So,
Oh, yeah. We were setting up one time, and we were just getting to putting the sandbags on the tent, and so all of a sudden we feel this gust of wind, and I grab onto the tent leg, and literally the tent raised me up about 10 inches in the air. So everybody's like, oh no, you're going to blow away. So I mean,
hey Toto,
and
we're not in
I'm
Kansas
a lot
anymore.
of weight compared to a sandbag. So so for the tent to actually elevate me off the ground was kind of crazy, but it does happen. But
Right.
yeah, just other than that, just you know, if it's going to rain, also comfort for your staff, with wearing the right shoes. If they have any, I always have my LL Bean waterproof shoes. I've got another pair of boots that are waterproof.
Right.
And then if you're talking about extreme heat, because we didn't talk about heat either, it's nice to get those igloo coolers and having those on hand for your staff to get through. Because I mean, there's sometimes, I mean, it can be brutally hot. Um, at a shoot. So the umbrellas help with that, and the extra tents help with that as well, keeping your staff shaded from the sun to get through a photo shoot, and of course having plenty of water available. So
Well, and even going another level there, have an extra tent for parents to stand under.
mhm.
I went through a couple of those shoots where we had, I was out in the middle of a field. I had a I had an umbrella over me and just one tent shooting teams, and the parents were all standing out in the heat, and so I put up another tent for them, and they were just thrilled. Well, that's just an added level of service for them to say, "Hey, I care about you. Here's let's take care of the parents too." So,
Sure.
setting something up for them, it was well welcomed. Heat was a big deal this year as well as wind. I mean, I think the beginning of the year was just insane with wind. So,
It was.
but yeah, I got some questions, or at least one here from from Reagan. Any tips on the mental aspect? I mean, keeping calm, dealing with changes of plans, or staying in a roll with the flow kind of mindset with it. I mean, how do you handle prepping your team or yourself for the potential um, for inclement weather or changes in your shoot plan? I mean, um,
Well, I think for one, like on that windy day shoot, I was in contact with the commissioner, as far as the commissioner goes, um, about the wind, and he was willing, he was ready to pivot and do a mass email and text to parents if the location was going to change. So that was very beneficial when we had to relocate quickly, to have a relationship with your commissioner on, this is what we're going through. They know you're out in the elements. So, and they want it to happen, and that kind of thing. So having that person, when you see it in the weather forecast, talk about your backup plan ahead of time. I mean, I think all of us look at the weather. Oh, what's it going to do? I think we're always looking at the weather. So, but having that backup plan, whether it's going to be a cancellation or, relocation, if the weather isn't going to cooperate in a last minute situation. I also, I still photograph my teams and my leagues, but me as the owner, I tend to not like to be behind a camera. If I put myself behind a camera, I can't survey the weather. I can't react quickly because once you have a line of kids, you can't move. You kind of have to stay right there. It's hard to like really shut down. But and maybe you're shooting and at least you have a manager who's managing the situation. They can actually start shutting down a camera or moving kids. Like, we got to shut down, move to this line, we'll finish you up, and start shutting down because weather is coming. So making sure that you have a strong person that's actively managing the shoot that can kind of see what's going on. The weather is changing because we all know, the weather can change very quickly on us when you're outdoors. And it's not always in the forecast, but you can kind of feel it. You can kind of see the clouds moving really fast. You can see the darkness happening. So having someone available to react and to anticipate, is good.
Well, and I had to shoot this last year that got called for lightning. There wasn't any rain around, but within 10 miles, there's lightning. And, coaches are trained to look for that stuff outside. It's a cross country team. So, it was clouds in the sky. We were outside, set up on the track, doing natural photos. It was gorgeous because the clouds are fantastic. And so I had everything set up out there. And then all of a sudden, you hear a little rumble and all the coaches are going, yep, lightning strike within 10 miles. We got to go in. And so everybody picked up a piece of equipment. We headed into the gym. While doing track and cross country photos inside is kind of boring. So we made it work. We made it, managed it. But, being able to spin on a dime, I think, is pretty much part and parcel of being a volume photographer.
Yeah. And having some tools to help you out with, I love my pull cart. I have I can't remember. I think it's called the rack and roller. You can kind of see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
it's right down here in the corner. Yeah.
That's yeah. Having, item, carts and stuff to be able to break down quickly and throw in a cart and cart off and, get out of the situation quickly is also nice to have instead of manually carrying everything. And that's why I mentioned the tents and wheels, but granted, we just throw the tents in the trailer. There's no time to put them in the bag and zip up and roll them out of the way. So sometimes you just have to pick them up and carry them and, throw them wherever they need to go just to get out of a bad situation. But having like tools like that to at least get the little stuff all out of the way and just roll it right into the trailer.
Absolutely.
Easy to do.
Well, Stella, thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming on here and sharing your experiences with extreme weather out there in Maryland. You get it down there in Florida too when you're shooting down there, but this is all the time we've got today, I think. So thanks everybody for joining us. We'll catch you on the next episode of Extreme.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.